Greetings, this is Top Hat and Buttered Popcorn. My name is John Savers. I'm your host, and we are now going to take a look at a couple of films or so, beginning with The Cell. This is a film that was directed by Tarsem Singh, a rather unfamiliar name for me. Jennifer Lopez is the star, and the cast of many. It is primarily her vehicle. This particular film is one of a sort that is pretty regularly kicked out by Hollywood in A Search of Doe. It's basically a pornographic story, has strong pornographic elements. In this particular case, it is of the violence to women type, exploiting the viewers in this regard, and we see this kind of thing from time to time, in which really disturbed individuals are shown, and they often give, as in this case, a memorable bit of overacting to create that very weird personality. And then we also see the blood and the terrible images of dismembered or wounded women, and that is the pornographic exploitative angle. Now, it may be offered in defense of this sort of thing that individuals such as Mr. Daimler and so forth occasionally surface, and that's true. However, I think that these things are really kicked out basically because they are pretty easy to do, sensational, and are pretty good at getting an assured dollar, getting the maker's money back. Now, the weirdo in this particular film is the usual villain in these serial murder perverted types. A white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed fellow to boot. He appears to be German, has the name of Karl Rudolf Starter, as I made him. He even has a pure white albino German Shepherd, I believe. At any rate, I didn't catch the actor's name, but I thought he did a fairly good job at being weird, and perverted, deranged, and so forth. It can be said that those kinds of roles do give actors something to really sink their teeth in and to emote about, and so therefore he got his money's worth out of it, out of his chance. Now, this kind of film is sanitized often by being enfolded in a cops and robbers storyline, and that's true here. Now, the cops and robbers story and its unfoldment are also enfolded in a sort of sci-fi storyline about cutting-edge events in the area of behavior problems, dysfunction of the brain, and so forth. And a very avant-garde procedure to try to understand the problem better. And the technique involves what might be called human transference and interference. I think it might well be called mind crashing, as in party crashing. And this mind crashing allows another individual a chance to get in amongst the thoughts and memories and mental debris of the target and try to understand what's happening there. So that's pretty much it. Now, some of you may say, well, okay, you have this fellow, he's very disturbed, he's a serial murderer, he's perverted and so forth. He's butchering pretty young women and so forth. But why? What is the reason? What would set off somebody like that, you know? Well, the answer is pretty much also standard Hollywood. The answer seems to be Christianity. It appears that the boy was traumatized by his total body baptism submersion, as well as by a highly abusive father, and the 2-0, the very cruel and abusive father, and Christianity did the number on him. At one point, his father is so abusive that he takes a hot iron to the boy. The mother has flown the coop, and judging by the father, it's not difficult to understand why. The only question would be, why didn't she take her son? Well, it's not stated too much about this, but it is entirely plausible to assume even that maybe she didn't escape. Maybe she was killed by this very abusive, cruel, foul-tempered individual. But be that as it may, he was nasty, and the problems of Christianity, according to Hollywood's point of view, and this individual apparently just basically nuked the brain of the lad, and he became totally disfigured from the radiation. So there it goes. Now, naturally, I don't applaud this sort of thing, but that does seem to be the basic motivation or cause and motivation. So we have also in this film strange imagery. I don't recommend this film at all, and yet it does have some very interesting, striking, sometimes surreal imagery. The film also, from the point of view of somebody sort of accustomed to Western imagery, it does have wholly inexplicable imagery, what I would call Indo-Kish. It's hard to see how this could have found its way into the mind of Carl Rudolph Starter. The assumption might be that he was immersed in the alleged universal consciousness and somehow got lost in Indo-mythic areas, and there you have it. But at any rate, the film opens up in just such sort of imagery. We see Jennifer Lopez playing Kathy. Of course, Jennifer Lopez is a very attractive woman. She is riding a dark Arabian horse, and she herself is dressed up in a white sort of dressy dress with plumage, white feathery aspects to it. The locale is a desert. It looks to be Saudi Arabia or some such because of the high dunes. She is part of a surreal scene here, and without going into it too much, she is shortly encountering a lad. She's open and friendly to the lad. The lad is somewhat reticent and disturbed, and it seems that he is involved with, possessed with, or influenced with some kind of demon named Muckaluk or some such, and it gets a little out of her hands, so she has some sort of button escape route to use. She pushes it, and the scene kind of cuts to a lab of some sort in which we see suspended figures, one of which is a clearly shapely female, and the other much smaller, that of a boy apparently. Well, the female turns out to be, of course, Jennifer Lopez's character, Kathy. She has been mind crashing the lad, who is something dysfunctional about his mind. I can't say that he is autistic precisely, but there's something somewhere between autistic and schizophrenic there. He's not quite right. She's trying to help him. or she's trying to help the people who may be able to help him understand him better. It just so happens she's pretty gifted in this mind crashing. So at any rate, it's not all that easy for her. It takes a lot out of her and so forth. This locale, by the way, is London. Now we get a cut from this to the Cops-n-Robbers area. I believe that these are primarily FBI, Fed cops, who are working this angle because of the kidnapping aspect, I suppose. It may be multi-J. But anyway, we see an individual, tall, slender guy, one of these types we are to assume works about 28 hours a day, living on coffee and perseverance and determination and so forth, in his desire to fight crime. He had at one point, we learned later on, been a prosecuting attorney and was found it distasteful because he saw that justice was not really being meted out, but circumvented. Well, I mean, is this really such an epiphany for anybody in the Justice Department, any kind of Fed cop at all, or any kind of cop, as a matter of fact? I don't think so. But anyway, it turned out to be somehow a turning point for him, and he left the lawyering and took up the badge, where he hoped to be more effective. Well, he is in charge of an investigation of serial murders that are being committed in the West Coast area. Young women, of course, being victimized, dismembered, or whatever. I think in this particular case, they are uniformly drowned after being tortured, and there may be some sort of sexual involvement here of a non-voluntary type, and other signs of perversion and so forth. So since murder is there and the primary concern, he said, we're really going to have to stop this guy. To his team, we only know this much, that he's a killer, that he's going to kill again, and he's got to be stopped. So get out there and turn over every rock, and we got to find this guy. Well, we have this angle here, and then we kind of also have a cutaway to the actual target, which is this Carl Rudolph Starter, I think his last name was, who is clearly weird and really the guy who does it's kind of amusing in the way. If you put aside what he's doing, I mean, it just he is really weird. But at any rate, we see him going about his awful duties and stuff. He apparently has a subterranean chamber in the Bakersfield area where he holds women hostage for roughly 40 hours before they are drowned. He has a little case or cell for this purpose, which of course, gives reference to the title of this particular film. The title of the film refers to this. It's, unfortunately for the ladies, although it appears like a well-lighted police-type cell in the way, with standard material such as a sink and toilet and bunker and maybe a bench. It is, for all practical purposes, an aquarium. The chamber is viewed by cameras from at least 3 angles, and the cameras are running. So we see that this person takes pleasure in watching the distress of these women and so forth. We see all kinds of little indications of his cruelty and perversion and so forth. So we have those two kind of running parallel, the cop, the good cop, his team trying to get this guy, and this very ultra individual criminal. He grabs another woman. We see this. She is kind of a sweet young thing, blonde, slender young woman. And he uses his usual technique. He subdues her, he shanghais her, and he arrests her, puts her in a holding chamber. That one I described in subterranean Bakersfield. Well, while all this is going on, another body has shown up, been discovered in shallow water. Our police team has gone there, they investigate it, they check it out and so forth, and wouldn't you know it, they find a dog hair. And not only is it a dog hair, but it's the dog hair of an albino, a pure albino dog. And what's more, it turns out these are rare, and what's more, it turned out that our nutty Mr. Carl Rudolph has gone to the authorities and registered this dog. It had originally been plucked from a pound, I believe. At any rate, the police with this information get his locale. Now, as they're going over there in several police cars and so forth, in a multiple jurisdictional team attempt at this arrest, he is acting rather loony in a bathtub and stuff. He has also attached to his back iron rings of some sort, about 12 to 15 iron rings all along his back and maybe his upper thigh and so forth, from which he likes to suspend himself over his victim. And he may get some sort of sexual pleasure from this. Well, you can just tune in all to this and see that the person's quite off his rocker here, but there are many young folks today who might see nothing wrong with putting rings in the back and so forth, so there could be division of opinion here. At any rate, just as the police are coming into the area in which he is, or was, that is the bathroom, bathtub, he has gone comatose. It seems that he is carrying a virus, a brain virus, which just knocks him out, comatose, at just the time that these cops are raiding the digs. One should know the bad luck of it all. So what to do? They pick him up and take him down to, I guess, a police hospital facility, and what to do. The hospital doc says it looks like he could be on the blink forever, you know, in this comatose state. Well, what are they going to do about this girl that they know he has shanghaied, and which they know from previous crimes and so forth has only 40 hours to live, of which some have already gone? Well, I mean, this is one of those film devices that is, a project has to occur within a certain time frame or the game is over. So it just so happens that the doctor with whom he is talking, this lead cop in the film, recalls this cutting-edge experimentation in London, England, and he puts this cop in touch with these people, and they put him in touch with Jennifer Lopez, and the question to her character is, will you go back and will you attempt to enter, to crash the mind of Carl Rudolph Starter? Well, she's not so sure because, as she points out, it takes many months to gain the confidence of somebody before any improvement can be made and stuff like this. She only has 40 hours. The cop reminds her that, you know, this is a matter of life and death to this shanghaied girl. She's going to drown in that cell if you don't do something. You can't find her and so forth. Well, convinced she has to give it a shot, Jennifer Lopez's character flies to the West Coast, and they or rather, I think that they fly Carl maybe to this facility in London, actually, and strap him into these body suits they have. They have a little cloth they put over the face. It seems to have a computer program, software type outline on it. Is it important? Can't say. But it certainly looks kind of snazzy. Looks like it could have scientific import at any rate. So they suspend them to give them a sensation of floating, of being in a dreamlike physical condition. Perhaps it aids in dream worldism. At any rate, they get Carl Rudolph into a bodysuit and get him suspended. Of course, he has to use their suspending mechanism rather than his own metallic rings in the back. As a matter of fact, I think that the cops removed them. But at any rate, it's all set, and Jennifer goes into this dude's mind. She makes contact with a little boy that we saw in a small early imagery, a flashback to his baptismal day, and the day when he was abused by his father, that period. He's apprehensive and so forth. Well, at this point, it looks kind of like a dungeon imagery, but as she makes some kind of contact with this boy, somehow gaining, if not his confidence, some kind of sympathy, him for her, that makes him want to protect her to some extent. Who is the boy trying to protect her from? Probably from his adult demonic personality. Well, this personality soon arrives. When all this gets going, we kind of get into this endo-mythic, kishish kind of imagery. We even see at one point the Jennifer Lopez character sort of decked out as a kind of a beautiful lady, a sort of Indo-Virgin Mary. She's sort of on a throne, and in the background a kind of partial lotus blossom imagery radiating and so forth. And we get a complete series of Indo-mythic imageries. Naturally, she is, everybody's a little confused by all that. At one point toward the end, she even takes the wounded lad, and takes him down to what appears to be a spring or some sort of a clear lake to, as it were, bathe, purge, initiate a sort of initiation from his Christian baptism and all its negative aspects, purging him of this and all the horror of which he has known, and embracing him, his consciousness and all this to a higher level. Did the water stand for the Ganges or something of this sort? Well, I can't say, but certainly it did have some sort of purifying mythic imagery. Well, he didn't quite make it, to tell you the truth. So we do get these kind of outlandish and insulting imagery in regard to Christianity, I think. However, the whole thing finally comes to an end in the sense that this perilous journey, and it's perilous for Jennifer Lopez's character only if she forgets that it's not real, if she buys into the reality of the demented mind in which she crashes. And of course, that seems to be what is happening. In fact, the police officer, the lead police officer, in an attempt to save her from this sort of buying into the unreal, himself gets into a body uniform and has a little napkin-like deal put on his face and goes mind crashing into Carl Rudolph also, this time for the purpose of course, saving Kathy. Well, some heroism works, and this seems to have done it. She is saved. He is saved, the cop. The boy, we are to infer, has had his consciousness perhaps raised so that if he comes back again, it won't be as a demented pervert, but as a more elevated individual, perhaps a visionary, and so forth. Carl Rudolph, of course, gets his. He doesn't make it, bad duty that he is. At the end of it, we see Jennifer Lopez's character, Kathy, back. Boy, is she exhausted. It's been tough. The police officer goes back. He may be thinking in terms of retiring now from all kinds of work like this and just taking up bass fishing. Well, I think she wants to do some rest and recuperating herself. And as for the science, well, of course, it marches on. So, well, that's it. That's a wrap. We're out of time. This is Top Hat and Buttered Popcorn. My name is John Savers. I'm your host. I appreciate your tuning in and hope to see you again next time.